straight up. Blackness I aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have figured the wrong.
Hello, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. My name is Mark Benskop. Let's begin to rock and roll. We finally got Ganesh Mahipal. He has been absent from Benskop Radio for 5 months, 6 days, 13 hours. And 55 minutes. We have been keeping track of Ganesh. Let me just have you guys know that he is on. There he is. He is on. We'll bring him back shortly. But he has been absent here. We want to extract much from Ganesh Mahipal this evening. We are going to get straight to some point. No dilly-dallying. No skin teething, as they would say in Guyana. But here's what you can do in the meanwhile. Share the link, spread the word, let them know that Ganesh Mahipal is my guest this evening. He once used to be employed right here, pro bono. He used to help us out, do some shows. He went into hiding. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. All of these things and more, I'm going to ask Ganesh Mahipal about the statement that he issued, or he was part of a group that issued a statement. I'm going to ask him about whether he agrees that there's economic genocide in Guyana practiced by the PPP regime, racism by the PPP regime, discrimination mainly towards persons of African descent, and even persons who are not of African descent are feeling the brunt under this illegal PPP regime. Member of Parliament, the Honorable Ganesh Mahipal, is my guest this evening. We will be back shortly, but let me just remind you guys that, guess what? Sue, the allegations made by Sue against Bharat Jagdeo, I will ask Ganesh about that too, and whether he's comfortable that there has been no investigations at all. And I want to ask Ganesh whether he's been able to, I'm not saying that Ganesh is a bounty hunter, but whether he is run into Sue anywhere, because people want Sue. They want to hear from Sue what he has to say. But let us just remind you guys as to what that news reporter, she was in Guyana, investigated Bharat Jagdeo, and guess what has happened? Nothing thus far. We'll be right back with our guest, Ganesh Mahipal.
Source. Okay, well, maybe the Chinese company that did not get the agreement that they wanted here, maybe they're the ones who told you, or it could be just a fictitious thing.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Sue Jerome?
Sue? Oh, Sue. My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes. He is a friend of ours. His father was here from many years ago.
I mean, he lives next door to you.
Yes.
You know, he was able to arrange meetings and catch-ups with you.
No, we know, we understand what is happening there. Again, Ganesh Mahipal, the Honorable Member of Parliament, is with us this evening. He's no stranger here at Bench Up Radio. He's back with us. He's back home with us. You know, like when those kids, you get them out of the house and they play big man, big woman, and they're gone on their own. And here it is that he's back with us. Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, good evening and welcome back to Straight Up, sir.
Good night, Mark. Good night to all your viewers. Thank you for having me. It's always a privilege, and it's good to be on your program.
It's good to have you back home. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Let's begin first of all. Thanks for being here. But what have you been up to recently, sir?
Well, I am serving as a member of parliament. I am engaged in the representing the people in the National Assembly, and that is a task by itself, which my colleagues and I are handling, and basically being on the forefront representing. That is what I've been up to, and of course taking care of family and family businesses too.
Well, you know, family first. Family, we've got to ensure that we are there for family. But
Yeah.
being on the forefront, we have listeners throughout Guyana, all over in Blackbush Polder. Good evening to the guys. Just got a message from a guy out in Blackbush Polder. Balaram, good evening to you, sir, and your family. But let me ask you this, and of course, good evening to all our listeners throughout the world. Let me ask you this. You said you've been on the forefront, you've been battling, you've been fighting and so forth, exposing the PPP regime. I'm saying that, but I'm sure when you say the forefront, you know exactly that is what you've been doing, fighting against the atrocities committed by the PPP regime. But what are three things you think you've been able to accomplish since this illegal regime has been installed into office?
Well, I think representation is big in its own sense, and that can be measured, but I don't want to put a measurement to it because the fight continues. And I know for a fact that in the National Assembly, when we make our presentations and so on, the government will tend to act, but act in a way as to if it is them who is doing the work. Like, for example, I am shadowing local government and regional development. In my first budget presentation, I spoke about the cost of living and the amount of monies these councillors are receiving, which I think is unfair. And I made that representation, and I'm happy to say that the government has increased the stipends for these councillors, not to the amount that I would have wanted it to be increased to, but strong representations were made for that to happen, and I think it happened for the benefit of the councillors that are representing the interests of their respective people in their communities. That to say, NDC councillors, RDC councillors, and the mayor and town council councillors. So it's across the country. I can also say that constantly speaking out against various different other matters. But the sneakiness of this wicked regime is one where they try to manipulate and circumvent and own what they know they did not do unless the opposition called them out for it. And when you're in opposition, Mark, most of what you can do, and mind you, I said most of what you can do, is to speak out aloud against injustices, against actions of the regime, with the expectation of them changing it to benefit the people you are fighting for.
Of course, to benefit the people that you've been fighting for. You represent also your parliamentarian, of course, representing members of the opposition, but mainly you have a responsibility for those folks out in your constituency, region number 3. What are two things that the people have been complaining about that you believe that you have been championing?
I have been championing, for example, in regions, but mind you, region 3 is not my only responsibility. I'm also responsible for local government and regional development from the opposition side. So that covers the entire country, all 10 administrative regions guiding the regional democratic councils, especially for regions 4, 7, and 10. And then you have the respective NDCs across the country, 70 of them, and 10 municipalities. So all of them I engage with from time to time. But specific in region number 3 is the fact that they have basic problems relating to drainage and irrigation issues, which I would speak out on. And in some cases, it requires me making contact with the respective authority that deals with drainage and irrigation. And another issue I know that they have been speaking aloud for, and this is across the country, is the high cost of living. And that is another issue that I've been speaking out on regarding the people of Guyana. But not to say that there aren't other pressing issues. There are a number of pressing issues affecting Guyanese. And Guyana is not really the country that the PPP is trying to paint it as, this good, glorious, bountiful, resourceful country. We are that, yes, but is it being felt by the citizens of this country? That's another question. And we in the opposition have constantly said, convincingly so too, that this administration is all about friends, families, and favorites. And we have been seeing that from time to time, and how it affects not only a section of our society, but majority of our people who are poor and vulnerable, majority of our people who are on the breadline, who are in the public service, who are working for minimum wage, who are working for less than $200,000 a month. All those people below that salary scale, at that salary scale and below, are punishing. They're punishing in this country, and we cannot run from that. And the resource that this country boasts right now, the oil resource, the money is not trickling down to the ordinary people, and it's causing them great suffering, and we can't run from that.
Sufferation indeed all across the country, and we see this every single day. People have been asking that opposition be more forceful. And when they say forceful, not physically forceful, not violence or whatever, but to be more out there, and not just to wait until something happens, then they pop up for a photo op or these sort of things. And this is not to say that you are guilty of doing that, but people want to see a more forceful opposition. Forceful in a sense that you guys represent the interests of the people more than what we're seeing here now. And if you listen to people on the ground or even across social media, is that they feel that enough is not being done. Do you share that view that enough is not being done by you guys in the opposition?
Mark, because of what is happening in the country, because of the level of punishment being meted out to the people of this country, the ordinary people, because of the amount of suffrage that is going on, it will never be enough. Our actions will never be enough, because every single day there is a new issue on the front burner that is affecting people. When you move from the COVID pandemic and the manner in which the COVID money was distributed, then you move to the cash grant for school children. Then you look at what has happened in Region 5, Region 6, Region 5, I think we had some school incident. We had protest action by rice farmers. We have sugar workers crying out. We have the people of Mocha who suffered because of that illegal act of basically grading and bulldozing them off lands. Then you have issues that are surrounding the vendors at East Street. The issues are so much now that our actions as an opposition will never be enough for the people of this country. And it is 31 of us, and I agree that we have to try our utmost to attend to every issue, because people consider their issues as important. And I have always said that if an ant bites somebody and they complain to us about it, it is important to them. And that is why you must treat everybody's issue as important, because it is important to them. And our job as servants is to serve them. But I will say to you, Mark, to your question, that it will never be enough for us because the issues keep increasing by the day. And sometimes you have 3, 4 issues to deal with this regime. But to put it into context so that the people of this country can understand is that the fastest solution, the quickest solution to ensuring that there's a reduction in the issues that are affecting them and us, the quickest solution is at the next election, vote the PPP out of
And
office.
sometimes with the starvation and the way people are being treated in that country, I'm not even sure that people are optimistic that they will all survive by now and next elections. They have elected members of parliament and leaders in the opposition, mainly so, to stand up and defend their rights. Uh, I can't recall ever seeing an issue where I saw in the forefront there were opposition leader who was opposition members of parliament or opposition politicians who have said, look, this is what we are standing for. We are going to take the lead on X, Y, and Z situation instead of reminding us what we already know, what the PPP is doing to the people. And it seems as though the opposition members of parliament only wait until the people come out to do something, and then they hop in, take a quick photo, and then they're gone. Are you guys going to ever take the lead on something, Mr.
Well,
Michael?
well, I disagree with your position. Mind you, you're entitled to it, but I disagree with your position in the sense that I don't think it's a fair conclusion that we don't take the lead on anything. I think we have taken the lead on a number of issues affecting
Can
the
you give
people.
me 2 things that you guys have taken the lead on?
I would like to first say that we have taken the lead on calling on the government to ensure that there is better wages and salaries for the public servants of this country.
People
We
have
have
been calling
constantly,
that is nothing new. That is nothing new or unique to you guys.
whether,
The
Mark,
ordinary folks have been doing that, have been calling on that for the longest while. You guys are there in parliament. Positions should be taken. But continue. You're here as my guest.
regardless of whether you conclude it is nothing new or not, if we did not do it, it would have been a problem. The fact that we did it is a forefront stance that we took, and that must be respected. And I've said that the APNU AFC, and we have said this umpteen times, without oil, we were able to increase public servants' salary tremendously. And with oil now, it is expected to be better. And we have been calling for that, and we will continue to call for it, taking into account that there is this high cost of living. So whether we do it or not do it, it will still be an issue. When
Fair
we do
enough.
it,
Cost of living has been high. People have been calling for increases and so forth. Parliamentarians have taken a position that, yes, they want an increase, and they've been fighting for that. And you're saying now you guys have taken the lead on that. 2 more things that you guys actually force these illegal individuals into office to act. 2 more things, please.
yes, but you see, Mark, you have to allow me to finish. I don't know why the adrenaline rush.
No,
I don't know
we're done with that because we're
I
looking
don't
at
know.
time. We already know cost of living high. People have been asking for increase and so forth. So it's nothing big and commendable that members of the opposition has been singing the same song of the ordinary people. But I appreciate the fact that you guys joined the people in singing that song. 2 other things that you guys were in the forefront for and
Yeah.
helped the battle.
Yes, and I'm saying to you, Mark, I'm saying to you that they are the whole aspect of representation doesn't only cover us standing and talking in the National Assembly. It requires us to go out and inquire and find out and know and then come back to represent. We cannot run away from the fact, Mark, that we're a political opposition that is not a majority in the National Assembly. And we have to ensure that when we represent, we don't put at risk the people of this country and their lives and their livelihood at the same time. But we got to fight for them, which is what we are doing. We are fighting for them. And I don't want you, Mark, to run away with the idea that there is not going to be a way to unseat the regime. The elections will come again, and the people will have to vote and ensure that they speak and speak out loudly. Part of the problem, Mark, that some of us don't want to accept is that the people have to also stand strong with their voices and be encouraged, be supportive of the fact that a change in government is what is desperately needed. I have said over and over again on your program for years that the answer lies in the hands of the people, not just Ganesh Mahipal, who is one person, or the 31 members of parliament on the opposition side. We have a job to do, which I think we are doing to the best of our ability, and that is to edify, inform, and present a case to them. We have said that if we or when we retake the government, we will ensure that the poor and vulnerable are focused on. We will ensure that equitable distribution of resources, and all of these things are said.
Let me just take a pin there for a moment. Of course, you could paint Ganesh Mahipal style. You've said something, and I just want you to clarify. You did say that you guys in the opposition don't want to put people's lives at risk. Explain that. What exactly do you mean, put their lives at risk?
Because we don't want to put their lives at risk. That's self-explanatory.
No. Explain it to us. In what way would you be putting their lives at risk? And therefore, you don't want to put their lives at risk.
The way we get information, Mark, is from people. We get information from people. How is it that we knew that there were problems happening at the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, where there is complaints of Vindhya Prasad acting in a manner as though she doesn't want a certain type of people in her ministry, where she's operating very differently? We get information from people within there. The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, we get information from people.
That is nothing new.
Even and you keep
information.
Mark,
these things are known. These things. But my question to you, one second, Mr. Mahipal, what do you mean? You mean that if people go out to protest, is that what you're talking about?
No, that is not what I said. I said to you that there are people who are supplying us with information, and if we don't act on it cautiously, if we don't treat with it cautiously, those people can lose their jobs, they can lose their livelihood, and it will be us who will be putting them at risk. So we have to ensure that when we are fed the information, we treat with it properly, and we argue our cases in such a way that we don't expose our informants. And there are many people who are providing us with information. And some of them are saying,
we've been hearing all these nasty things.
Mark,
we've been hearing, one second.
I don't, Mark.
One second.
Mark, you have to allow me. You have to allow me to finish.
One second.
I don't know why the hostility
one second,
tonight.
Mr. Mahipal.
I don't know. Let me finish. You have to allow me to finish.
One second. One second, please. 1 second. Thank you. Remember, this is straight up. This is not Gildari and Freddie Kissoon and these kind of rambling and rambling shows. I respect my guest, and all I'm asking you is that with what we've been hearing in the ministries and all these sort of things, we've been hearing about racism in almost all of the ministries, sir. Vindhya's office, we've been hearing about the ministries. Why haven't we been hearing more forceful, forget about endangering people's jobs and all these sort of things, a more forceful action, because we just can't allow them to get away with basically murders in these regimes, in these ministries, and not much is being said because you guys are of the view you want to protect people's jobs. Mr.
Let me say to you, first of all, that I have appeared on your program years, not today.
Welcome back.
I've been on your program since the year, I think, 2017. And a period of time I was there consistently. And never before have you ever come after me with such hostility. And I am interpreting it as hostility. Perhaps you have your reason. I don't know what it is.
I think you're being super sensitive. Go ahead.
Listen, you have to allow me. I've always said to you whenever invited that I will appear, because I sense that you are an objective person. I don't know if your previous interview that you were on earlier caused you to become
Let me
this
ask
hostile.
you something.
But
And
I want you to know
where is the hostility?
you
Because
keep
I'm
you
saying, Ganesh, can I stick a pin for a moment? I'm being hostile. You're welcome here anytime. But
I know that.
let us not stray away from the issue.
I
Let's get
know
back
that.
on track. People need
I
proper
know that. But
representation.
but I want
People
you to
need proper
understand.
representation. Do you feel that you guys are offering proper representation to the people?
And I said to you that people will continue to demand more representation because the issues keep piling up. The issues keep piling up day after day and they increase in numbers. I am not running from the fact that people need more representation, but it is not fair to say that they are not getting representation
No,
from
I
the
never
opposition.
said that. I said they're not
I
getting
never said you
sufficient.
said that.
Sufficient.
I never said you said that. In this interview, we're not speaking to each other alone. We're speaking to thousands of people who are tuned in to 107.1 FM. And I'm saying to you that it is not fair to say that they are not getting representation, nor is it fair to say that they are getting a small amount of representation. There are 31 members of parliament in the opposition. We also have seats at the regional democratic councils, and we have seats at the neighborhood democratic
Wait a minute.
council.
Wait a minute. I'm not being hostile here. 31 members in the opposition as members of parliament? 31?
How much you think it is?
Where are these people, most of them? But continue.
Mark, I said on your program before, and I'm going to say it again, that if all 31 members of parliament come out every single day for Mark Benchcup to see who will be the ones who will be doing the research, who will be the ones who will be preparing the documents, who will be the ones who will have to do. Listen, you're on this television program here. You're on this program here. Don't you have an operator that is backstage? Don't you have a radio station that has staff? Do everybody see all the staff of 107.1 all the time? Are everybody not occupied with something to do? So we have to stop attacking the members of parliament like this. I am not saying that there is not a need for more representation. There is, and there will always be with a PPP regime that is focusing on only friends, families, and favorites. There will always be that cry for more representation.
Thank you. I just want Ganesh, you're a friend. You're no stranger to Benchop Radio. Just calm down a little bit. It's okay. Let me ask you this. In politics, people go and they vote. People go and they campaign for politicians, whether they're elected or selected to lead the people or to represent the people. When I voted and I campaigned for you guys in the coalition, I'm sure on behalf of thousands of other people watching here, we didn't vote for people to be researchers. If we wanted to vote for researchers, we could have gone into some private company and vote for or hire some research operative or whatever. We voted for you guys to go out there into the streets or wherever and represent our interest. Don't come and say that all of us can be out there. Some got to do research. I didn't vote for y'all to be researchers. I vote for y'all to stand up and represent my rights out there. All 31 of you guys. But go ahead.
That's an intellectually circumcised conclusion that I wouldn't want to go down the road of continuing with. All I will say to you is that in our presentations at the National Assembly, we cannot sound like fools. We have to do research. We have to ensure that we gather our information accurately. And we have to ensure that we make proper presentations and representation. We cannot be fools in the National Assembly when we make our representation. So there is need for good research, there is need for intelligence gathering, and there is need for PR work and the likes. MPs don't get staff members, at their sides. MPs don't have staff members at their sides. Perhaps what we should do is maybe join the call for MPs in geographic seats to have an office at their respective geographic regions so that people can get easy access to them and so on. But and listen, I'm gonna take the politics out for a moment and say to you and the entire viewership that MPs are not robots either. MPs have family, as I said to you earlier in the program. MPs have loved ones. MPs have people who depend on them, their children, and so on. So don't for a moment think that this is a 24/7 thing all the time. Yes, we have to make representation. Don't misconstrue me or misunderstand me. But your outburst and the people who have these issues, their outbursts come at a time when the PPP is piling up issues on the poor and vulnerable who are in the majority. And I understand their frustration. I understand their anger. I understand the need to see more of us. I understand the need for us to always be by their sides. I'm not disputing that. And it is only because we have a regime in office that is causing this kind of problem onto the people of this country. We have a regime that is not taking care of the poor and vulnerable and the persons who are suffering to make ends meet. And perhaps you are right. There is no greater a time than now for us to come together, band ourselves, and send a strong signal. Perhaps in civil disobedience. Perhaps in a manner where we can down tools. I have asked many times on your program for the public servants to go slow. Because if the public servants send a strong message to the administration, their questions will be answered. The salary increase that the public servants need, they can together get it. Because the ministries, the departments, and the regions, they function, and these political appointees get the thank yous of the hard work of the public servants. So this is not a 31 MP thing alone. It is an altogether thing. And umpteen times we have said that the people ought to stand up with us. And we will stand with them as we have been doing. And if the public servants, the nurses, the doctors, the teachers, the policemen and women want to send a strong signal, then it calls for togetherness in doing it. Not selective few that can easily be targeted and then they will suffer. So it calls for commonality, Mark, and not just an attack on 31 MPs.
Thank you. Let me just correct you that what is being uttered here tonight and the frustration of the people, the majority of the support base of the coalition is not, it's not, a fair description of this term that you use, outburst. It's not an outburst at all. People
Your
are
outburst.
frustrated.
I said your outburst.
No, it's not my outburst at all. I have not raised my voice, and you haven't seen me gotten all, animated at all. I'm very calm, Mr. Mahipal.
I am calm.
Just to have you know, sir, that you're not on this show to be attacked. You're a friend of this show. You belong to the radio station. You are a friend. You're not being attacked.
And I must tell you, I am recovering. I am recovering from a cough and a cold. So if you see me coughing in between, it's because I'm still recovering. But sometimes I thought just now how you were getting on is though I'm not entitled to get sick.
I just wish you a speedy recovery. We all entitled to get sick indeed, and we all do get sick at time and time. On behalf of our listeners, we wish you a speedy recovery. But you did mention in terms of people joining you guys, and this is a together thing. I understand that. You also said that you have a family. We all do have a family indeed. But let me remind you that politics around the world, especially people who take politics seriously, it is a 24/7 job. And people who go out there and set themselves to be elected should be cognizant of the fact that it is a 24/7 job. Politics and representation of the people is not a part-time job, sir. Not at all. And so there shouldn't be any excuses for those 31 members of parliament, most of whom are silent, most of whom are not saying anything, most of whom are not speaking out or standing up for the rights of the people. And so our outburst, my outburst, is quite legitimate. It's quite commendable.
Listen, let's qualify your statement. Qualify your statement.
Let me say this to you, sir. Let me ask you this question. Let's move on.
But I want you to tell me who are most. You can't just put a broad brush over the MPs and say most of us are not doing XYZ, who are most?
Mr. Mahipal, the people in Region 10 hardly getting representation in Linden, in Kokwani, in Ituni, in Old England, and other parts of Region 10. The people in other regions ask a lot of these people. This is not propaganda. When was the last time they saw the opposition politicians? The people in Blackbush Polder, the farmers, the rice farmers, and all these people are feeling the squeeze. All people are saying, and this is not having any sort of personal agenda or anything against you guys, is you guys have to go out and do more. Forget about the coal. They get people with hot sweat, they get Nara, they get backache, and they're out there, activists and community activists and others who are out there. You think a lot of times we want to be on this show as social media personalities or radio personalities? You think we want to be on? We also have coal too. We also have people too. But yet
let me say this.
We are not being paid to do what we're doing. We're not given duty-free concession. Too many excuses from members of our opposition politicians. And this I say with no disrespect to anyone. More needs to be done, Mr. Mahipal.
Let me say this to you now.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Region 1, Member of Parliament, the geographic MP, is Mr. Ronald Cox. He is a teacher by profession and also the Member of Parliament. Region 2 is Sherwin Holder. Region 3, Ganesh Mahipal. Region 4, we have 4 of them. Catherine Hughes, Natasha Flubes, Nima Flubes, Natasha Singh Lewis, Ricky Ramsarup, well, 5 apparently, Maureen Philadelphia also. But I think Natasha Singh Lewis is from the top-up list. Region 5, we have Vince Roy Jordan. Region 6, Dineshwar Jaiprashad. Region 7, Don Hastings Williams. Region 8, Richard Sinclair. Region 9, Vincent Henry. Region 10, we have Jormin Figuera and Devin Sears. If there are persons who are listening to this program and they believe they don't know their MPs and they would like to have communication with their MPs, they can inbox me and I will provide the contact details for them.
Why should that be the case? Why should people have to inbox you? Mr. Mahipal, why should people have to inbox you to ask about an MP or MPs that should be representing them?
Mark,
not at all.
You are
not
missing what I'm saying. You're missing what I'm saying. You have said that there are a number of people who are claiming that they have not no representation. And I am saying to you that I am putting out all of those names and I'm prepared to provide their information to the people who may believe they're not being represented. But that does not take away. It does not take away from the fact that these MPs are on the ground in their respective areas and their respective regions. But there must be, and that's what I'm trying to get for you to understand, my brother, that there are people in Region 3 who will say that I am not representing them too. There are people in Region 6 that will say Dinesh Jaiprashad is not representing them. I can't stop people from saying that. And they may claim that they have no contact with the people. So if I decide to call out the MPs' names here, and I decide to say I'm prepared to give the contact details, that is not something, nothing is wrong with that. Do you have access to your representative there in New York 24/7?
I think you're missing the point, Mr. Ganesh, and please, I didn't bring you here for you to be emotional. I'm not saying that you're emotional.
I'm not emotional.
But what I'm saying to you, sir, is if I'm a member of parliament or any one of our members of the audience, if I'm a member of parliament, I believe that my responsibility is to be active, is to take my time off.
What is causing you to draw a conclusion that is not happening?
I never interrupted you when you spoke. Is to be on the ground and to represent the people. And if I'm working on 2 things or 10 things, the people should know that, yes, they're member of parliament. Benchop is active with us within this community and all manner of things. I'm not going to wait until something happens and then go and take a selfie.
Let me set the record straight before your viewers believe, and you also believe, that my presence tomorrow at a number of locations in my region will be because of this program. It's not.
You never know.
It's not. I'm putting it straight.
You never know.
It's not, because I already have set out tomorrow as a day when I will be spending, in various communities in my region. I have already notified various persons of my presence and where it will be and the time and so on. So don't believe when
Okay, fair enough. And look,
when you
look,
see tomorrow.
it might be a coincidence, but that's okay. But let me ask you this, Ganesh, and I'm not being hostile to you. You're a friend of Ben Shop Radio. Apart from tomorrow, you have these things scheduled. When was the last time you had such an outing in your region?
I went into my region. It was, I think, not this Saturday that not the Saturday gone because I was unwell. The Saturday before that, I was there. I was there the Tuesday when they had that unfortunate fire
Fire.
at Parika. I was there also in the region, and from time to time, I go into communities that I don't expose on social media for various reasons that I don't expose all over for various reasons because I do my political work there too. So there are times when you will see pictures and you will see movement in the region that I'm involved in, and there are times you will not for good reasons. But I can assure you that my presence tomorrow is not because of what you were saying here. That was planned a while now.
Thank you so much. But the people, I wouldn't be saying that as well. But let us get to some other stuff. I've noticed that people have, many years ago, Lincoln described this installed regime as an practicing economic genocide. What is your take on that description?
Well, let me say first of all that I have always categorized, and my colleagues and I have always categorized this regime as for friends, families, and favorites. And if they are looking at only friends, families, and favorites, it means they are forgetting a large portion of our population. And by virtue of not focusing on lifting a large portion of our population equitably for them to enjoy the wealth of this country, then the conclusion of us having economic genocide wouldn't be something that is wrong. And Lincoln may term it as economic genocide. I may term it as the PPP, focusing on friends, families, and favorites, neglecting the large portion of poor and vulnerable, not affording them resources, not empowering them to lift themselves out of poverty, and not making them happy as families. It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
But economic genocide, in a sense, we are mainly a lot of our brothers and sisters, African brothers and sisters, are being deprived of so many different things, contracts, and all these different things. No job creation, depression within mainly African
And I'm
Guyanese
not disputing. I'm not disagreeing.
communities in terms of bulldozing their lands and their farmlands and their homes and all these manner of things. What do you speak of that?
I'm not disputing. I'm not disagreeing nor disputing what you're saying. Economic genocide for me, in the sense of economic empowerment of our people, is not there. And it's not just contracts being given. And I can put it this way for you: the board system, the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board system that we have in this country, is one that is selective. On paper, it is a good system, but in practice, it is not. It is influenced by political powers that be, and it is being run by people who have their own self-interest at heart. Now, the coalition was in power for 5 years, and you did not have this kind of attitude. You did not have this kind of behavior. When the coalition was in power, there was a respect for the rule of law. There was the adherence to the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, the Procurement Act, the laws generally that governs procuring. And there wasn't people hampering or prejudicing or tampering with the system to manipulate it. And that's what you have here happening now. So when you hear people say that there are Afro-Guyanese that are being blocked from receiving contracts, it is not just Afro-Guyanese. There are a number of Indo-Guyanese that I can point you to that are crying out similarly. So let us put it into context. Majority of the people who are receiving contracts, yes, are Indo-Guyanese based on when you look at the output in terms of the awards. But there are also small scale contractors that are of Indo ethnicity, Afro ethnicity, that are being sidelined, pushed away, and that is because they don't have the resource to put in somebody's pocket to guarantee them jobs. Larger percentage are Afro-Guyanese, that I don't dispute. A larger percentage of Afro-Guyanese contractors are not receiving equal or equitable treatment of this, equal treatment of the system, but it does not mean that the few on the opposite side, the few on the other ethnicity, are not equally important in this too, because they don't have friends, families, and favorites within the PPP. So this issue must not be one that only focuses on one particular race because them in the majority may be affected. I agree that our Afro brothers and sisters are facing perhaps the harshest of treatment in our country right now. And I was the one in my budget presentation at the National Assembly who said that the PPPC wants to fool us into believing in this one Guyana. But the reality, the harsh reality, is that Guyana has 7 distinct Guyanas in it. I said the Amerindians have their Guyana. I said the Europeans have their Guyana. I said the Africans have the worst Guyana. I said the Portuguese have theirs. I said the East Indians have the best Guyana. The Chinese have their Guyana. And the mixed race is fighting for a Guyana.
Well, let me ask you this, Mr.
But let
Mahipal,
me
because
clarify. Let
if
me
you
make
have
this very clear.
if you have 99.9% of contracts being awarded to one ethnic group, we can't mix it up with anything else. It is what it is. Blunt racism and discrimination. We got to face it. 99.9% of one ethnic group. Forget about the other small ones who are crying out. We're talking about an ethnic group. And now let me ask you this. You said that the African Guyanese are faced with the worst Guyana. Why do you say that?
Because you look at how they are treated in their community, Mark. And I have been speaking out against the treatment of Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters for the longest while. So I'm not making this up. I've been on your program, as I said, years before. When you look at this regime and how they allocate resources, there was a $300 million, there was a $300 million in budget 2022 specific for small business development, right? And I remember there were trucks going into communities that are predominantly PPP supporters, sharing out baby chicks and chicken feed, and they were giving the chicken feeds and chicks to the people who are predominantly PPP supporters, and saying to them, go take chicken and mine and economically uplift yourself. There was no standardized progress. There was no standardized process of doing it. They did not go into Denhamstel and do it. They did not go into Bagottville and do it. They did not go in Buxton and do it. They didn't go in Ants Grove and do it. And these are predominant Afro-Guyanese communities. The government, however, the installed regime, they have a tendency of going into these Afro communities and select a few people, and they will give them some jobs to clean a drain. They will give them some job to probably renovate a pavilion in a playfield and those kind of things. And then the few people now are the ones who will have to do their dirty biddings in the respective communities. That has happened in Denhamstel. I know that for a fact. That has happened in Buxton. I know that for a fact too. That has happened in other Afro-Guyanese communities.
They're giving out piglets now. Piglets. They're giving out now.
But I don't dispute what you're saying. And when I say that they have the worst Guyana, it is because I sit and I see how is it that it operates within their communities.
So with,
And
with,
the
me, with the
moment,
description of the
don't take
worst
away from
Guyana,
this.
Mr. Mahipal, you sit there, you see these things, you see the discrimination even in Parliament by these illegal members of Parliament on the government side, the illegal government side, of course. Um, and then we go to another term, apartheid Guyana, how African Guyanese are feeling the squeeze, feel that they're being treated worse than third-class citizens. And to some extent, I don't want to equate it to slavery. Do you agree with this description of apartheid Guyana under the PPP regime?
I will always maintain that even though the largest percentage of affected people in Guyana right now by this regime may be the Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters whom I stand strong and solidly with, especially when it comes to representing their interests, that there is also other groupings that are suffering at the hands of the People's Progressive Party. I will say that anywhere, any place, anytime. I am a Guyanese of Indo ethnicity, and I have family members that are suffering at the hands of the PPP. There are many other Indo-Guyanese that I know who have family members also and themselves suffering at the hands of the PPP because they have exercised their constitutional fundamental right.
Let me say this,
a
Mr.
party of
Mr.
their
Mahipal,
choice.
Mr. Mahipal. I don't want you to miss the point. You're an intelligent young man, and I respect that. For political views, people are being discriminated against. But it is far more dangerous, sir, when someone is being discriminated as a result, especially by a regime, installed or not, are people who are being directly discriminated against as a result of their ethnicity. Therein lies the danger. Therein lies the danger.
And that's what I'm saying. That is wrong. I'm not going to condone with that. That is wrong. Totally wrong. But I don't want us to get lost into believing that it is just a race. The race issue is major. It is major. It is happening.
But we already know that our Indian brothers and sisters are suffering as a result of their political affiliation, our indigenous brothers and sisters and others. But for a regime to specifically target a group of people as a result of their ethnicity is basically tantamount to a serious crime against humanity that could lead towards a possible ethnic cleansing of a people.
But let me say this to you. Not only are people being targeted because of their political affiliation, people are being sidelined and not catered for, not cared for, not looked after because the administration, the installed regime is focusing on a small grouping of friends, families, and favorites. There are people in Region 2, people in Region 3, 5, and 6 who voted outright for the PPP, and they said they're not prepared to do it again because they are also feeling the squeeze. There's a road in Windsor Forest that I see a set of people of Indo ethnicity complaining bitterly for, that they're saying the contractor happens to be the famous critic. And there's so many other issues that are affecting them. And
I get your point, and I speak on that every day.
Thank you.
Even PPP supporters are feeling the squeeze. But when a regime specifically target a ethnic group, a group of people, because we can say that African Guyanese are feeling the squeeze because of their perceived political affiliation and obviously directly as a result of their ethnicity. So they're getting a double whammy here.
And I am saying to you, Mark, I am saying to you that it is wrong and it is unfortunate that you have the likes of Todd, you have the likes of Mark Phillips,
stop it. Don't even talk about Mark Phillips. He might be watching here tonight and say, Ganesh shook my hand or hugged me the other night.
No, I didn't shake his hand and hug him.
How do you feel comfortable eating and dining with these folks in 1 minute and then come back and call them illegal in another minute and discriminating against supporters of the coalition.
Doesn't mean that they're not illegal. It doesn't take away from the
No,
fact that
I'm
they're
not
not
saying
illegal.
that. I'm saying
In the
how do you
parliament,
feel? One
in the
second, sir.
parliament.
You're getting a bit worked up. 1 second.
No, I'm
All
not.
I'm
I'm not.
asking you, sir, is how do you feel comfortable whining and dining with these people, knowing that they're targeting folks in the opposition, knowing that they're discriminating against people and all manner of things, knowing that they're persecuting people? How do you feel knocking glass with these people?
Let me answer that by saying to you that in the Parliament of Guyana, there is one eating table that we all go and take our food out from. There is one drinking table that we all go and get our drinks from. And my attendance to the function the other night was on an invitation from the US Embassy to meet the senator, not the senator, the congressman and the congresswoman, and the other Congress people who came, and to interact with them and to basically I used that opportunity to express to them of the situation in Guyana, where I believe that the people, the poor people and the vulnerable people are suffering and continue to suffer. I used it as an avenue to express my disappointment and my disagreement with the manner in which resources are allocated to the people of this country. But I want to come back to a point that you have not allowed me to finish.
But before you come back to that point, that is not something for you. And this is with all due respect. And I understand politics. And I don't like to, I don't want people to feel that they could throw wool over my face and these sort of things. I'm not saying that you're doing that, Mr. Mahipal, not at all. But I don't want to hear that my elected official, because you are my elected official, has to go.
Thank you for voting for me. I didn't know you did.
Of course. I campaigned for you guys. I voted for you guys.
Continue to do so, right? Please.
I'm not sure. But let me say this. I don't want to hear my representative or the people's representative sit on social media or via radio and say that they had to go to a function to talk to a Republican guy from Missouri about situations in Guyana, when you guys had that opportunity to have a formal and a proper meeting to discuss these issues and hand them documents, not just to go sit down at a function at the US Embassy, drinking and eating, and you find that it is easier to talk about what you think Josh Smith is going to listen to you or anybody else at a function? Come on, Ganesh, do better than that.
Well, I listen. Sometimes you see things different from me. I see things different from you. Nothing is wrong with that. I had an opportunity to have an exchange with the people where I used it not to promote myself, but to talk about the ills of Guyanese, the ills that Guyanese are facing. And I think I did well with that opportunity. If you disagree with that manner of doing it and you have a proposition for a different way, then fine. But it doesn't take away from the fact that an opportunity presented itself for me to champion and represent the causes and the harm, and to represent the people of our country, to say what I honestly feel are injustices meeting out to them. And I used it. And I am saying to you that that is what I did. It wasn't to the liking of Mark Phillips, and it wasn't to the liking of you, Todd. And it was done in their presence. It was done in their presence. And I see no problem with that. But I'm coming back to the fact of talking about this race matter. I hope you allow me to come back now. When we have the likes of Mark Phillips, you, Todd, Kwame McCoy, Robertson Ben, and you name them, who are enjoying the niceties of the installed regime and are failing to make representation, that alone is enough for our people to repel them completely and signal their unwavering support towards the coalition for a re-election at the next election. And that is why I will always say on your program and any program I go on, that the answer lies in our hands as the electorate. And we have to speak, and speak loudly, by using the pen to put the X where it matters the most. And definitely it is not at the PPPC.
We have been, as we look at the time, Ganesh Mahipal, our member of parliament, no stranger to us here. He's a part of the Straight Up family. He's part of the coalition family. We don't necessarily have to agree all of the times or with strategies and so forth. And this program here tonight is not necessarily, it's not meant to target our member of parliament, but it's just to ask questions. And this is not really a soft spot for everybody. But let me ask you this. There's been some controversy in what the WPA member, Mr. Ogunsi, has said. And then there is another controversy with what Ms. Rhonda Lane has said from Denamstel, your constituency, who seem to be very fed up of being targeted by the PPP regime as a result of her ethnicity. Before we get to Rhonda, Ogunsi spoke about nothing new. People have been talking about that for a while, about the armed services and how the PPP use the GDF and the police for their dirty bidding. Some of those in those entities. What is your take on what Mr. Ogunsi said?
I believe, and I did say this to a couple of friends, that Mr. Takuma Ogunsi has been championing the call and championing the cause for there to be a better Guyana for especially the African brothers and sisters. And I see nothing wrong with championing that call and championing that cause. I believe that the manner in which the words were used could have been turned a different way to bring out the same message. And you will know, Mark, if you have been following, that I participated in the issuance of a statement that did not focus on what Takuma Ogunse said. And implied in that is the fact that Ogunse was fighting a cause for his people and his constituency. Ogunse was fighting a cause and a call for the representation of his constituency and his people. And when you sum it up, it simply means that the people deserve better. And if you give us better, and if you treat us better, and if you treat us with respect, then there will be no need for us to say X, Y, and Z. So it is a clarion call for the government to see the need of a grouping of people that Ogunse was speaking to being affected, as we have articulated on the program for the last hour or so, and representation must be given to them. I am going to expand and say that it should be given to all the people of Guyana in an equitable way, where the people of Afro-Guyanese origin can benefit significantly, where the people of Indo-Guyanese who are punishing at the hands of the PPP can benefit significantly too, Amerindian Guyanese, European Guyanese, Portuguese Guyanese, all the people that are suffering under the People's Progressive Party, which is in the majority, should be treated differently, should be treated with more respect, more care, and more consideration. That is how I'm going to put it.
I'm not sure how much you have read up about the civil rights struggle and how the KKK was basically targeting African Americans and so forth, and hanging them and killing them and all these manner of things. There were some Jewish brothers and sisters who were part of that struggle, and some other Caucasian folks and so forth. And their message was basically there were some whites and some Jewish folks and so forth who were caught up in the struggle. And the message has always been, because the brunt of that killings and the ill treatment of folks were meant towards persons of African descent. And their focus has been on just that. They haven't been mixing this up. We understand that all Guyanese are feeling the squeeze, but we're specifically talking about a particular people who have been singled out. That is the message tonight, Brother Mahipal. A particular ethnic group who are being people of a particular ethnic group who are being singled out by a regime, who are being targeted by a regime, and for the most part are being executed by a regime. That is what we're talking about.
Listen to me.
Now let me ask you this 1 second.
You're not allowing me to respond to that?
You said, Mr. Mahipal, you said that you would have coined what Mr. Ogunsi said differently. How would you have coined it differently? And specifically, what would you have coined differently?
Well, as I said before to you, Mark, when I started this program, and this is the problem. You want me to go in a direction that I am in my direction. I will define me as a politician. I will define how I operate as a politician. And nobody, Mark Benchcop, David Hines, or whoever else, is going to get me to go in a direction that they want me to go. And I'm going to stand firm on that. When I started off on your program here, 1 hour, 5 minutes ago, I said to you that I consider every single individual that comes with an issue as important. I don't outweigh and overweigh and underweigh issues. All issues must be treated equally because it affects those people. So if you, Mark, come to me with an issue that affects you, that may be great in terms of you losing $50 million, and that bothers you and you want my attention, the next person that comes to me with an issue where he only loses $100, I will treat it as equal because that $100 issue affected him just as that 5 million or 50 million affected you. And I am saying to you that when I speak to the people of Guyana, I will speak and continue to speak to the people who are affected as Afro-Guyanese and the people who are affected as Indo-Guyanese, Amerindian Guyanese, Portuguese Guyanese, European Guyanese, Chinese Guyanese, and the mixed races. And you can coin it, and whoever else wishes to coin it, that it is specifically about one ethnic group. I am saying that there is also a percentage, it may not be as large as Afro-Guyanese, but there is a percentage of Guyanese of East Indian origin, Chinese, Amerindians, Portuguese, that are equally affected. And this thing about targeting Afro-Guyanese is wrong. I have said that already. The PPP's action of targeting the people at Mocha, targeting the vendors at East Street, where Mayor Obraj Narain had to lie down in front of a truck so it can't move, or the people in Belladrum, or the people in Buxton, or the people in Denhamstel, it is wrong. But the same way, it is wrong for targeting people who look like me that are not receiving any resources from this government, that are suffering at the hands of this government, because this government, this regime is all about friends, families, and favorite. And it is a small cluster that is benefiting, a small cluster. Majority of our people are suffering, and suffering deeply and dearly. And that is how I will respond.
I understand your response, and all the time on this show, we have been saying that every Guyanese suffer at the hands of the PPP. Whether it's our Indian brothers and sisters, they are suffering as a result of their political affiliation. For the most part, their political affiliation. And the others are suffering because they're not part of that close circle clique of the PPPC. That is true. But what I'm saying, that when you have a regime installed or not, specifically targeting someone not just because of their political affiliation or because of obviously bad governance, but specifically because of their ethnicity, therein lies a bigger danger. And we must not try to sugarcoat it as though all are suffering. My point is, and we'll move on, Mr. Ganesh.
I didn't disagree with you.
All are suffering. But when a regime targets a people because of their ethnicity, it is dangerous, Mr. Mahipal.
And I agree with you.
You said you would have coined what Mr. Ogunsi said differently. How would you have coined it, and specifically what?
Well, as I said to you, I would have coined it. I just answered that. I would have coined it to include the other persons who are equally suffering at the hands of the PPPC. I said exactly what he said just now in all of those words earlier. by saying to you that it is not just about one ethnicity. I agree that my African brothers and sisters are suffering the most. I didn't dispute that. But there are others also, and that should have been reflected in his statement, in his
But African
pronouncement.
Guyanese are not suffering. They are being targeted as a result of their
But the others are targeted too.
ethnicity. A big difference between being targeted as your ethnicity and being targeted because of political affiliation.
All right, let me put it this way. To see if I could get. Let me go back to Mark Phillips.
Your
Is
friend.
Mark Phillips being targeted because of his ethnicity?
Mark Phillip is not aware of his ethnicity. He's blinded. He's
No, but
blinded.
listen. The point I'm making, Mark, is a
one
flip
second.
too.
History. Read up the history. Usually, when you're sitting in Massa House, you don't see the discrimination.
Good, but no, it's the same. Listen.
You only see the problems based from Massa's telescope. And what
Good. Now listen to me.
Mark Phillips and them, they're immune to anything that is happening, the suppression of their people. They're immune to insults such as BLACK dogs as being uttered. They're immune to threats of killing them out by poisoning vegetables. They're immune to people calling them lazy and then like all these things here. So don't use him as an example.
Good, but listen to me.
At all.
Good, listen to me now. It's the same way if we flip it. You have majority of Afro-Guyanese that are suffering at the hands of the PPP, and you have a small clique of Afro-Guyanese that are benefiting from the PPP. And the PPP is doing that for their own political mileage. We can't run from that. That is why I am so happy, contented, and light-hearted and light-spirited to know that I'm associated with a political party and a political movement that does not play the race card. I'm associated with a political party that sees value in me and sees value in the other persons who look like me and who are non-Africans. Yes, my political party is a mass-based party for Afro-Guyanese. Yes, my political party is a party that champions the call for betterment for the poor and vulnerable. My political party is not race-based. I'm associated, and that is why I feel so humble to serve in that political party. And I'm saying to you, Mark, that I don't disagree that Afro-Guyanese are suffering the most. But it does not take away from the importance of the others, even if they are in the minority.
And nobody's saying that it takes away from that. Nobody's saying that at all. But to have a regime that is using the bulk of the Guyana Defense Force and even the Guyana Police Force, people that they don't like, that they have called criminals and kicked down the door bandits and all manner of things. And I think that is what Ogunsi was speaking to. Some of us may sit here and say we could have done it different. Fair enough. But the reality is that's what the people in this illegal regime is doing. They're using elements of the police force and the Guyana Defense Force to target mainly persons of African descent. Now let's move away from Ogunsi.
Which is wrong.
Good. Fair enough. And we all agree with that. It is wrong. It is more than just wrong. It is a crime against humanity. Let's move away from that. You guys took umbrage to what a member of your constituency, Miss Rhonda Lane, has said. Specifically, what's the umbrage that you guys took and why?
Okay, so I must say that statement was issued, I think it was 48 hours after Miss Rhonda Lane made her statement. And specifically, what disturbed us was the comparison that was done with the East Indian Guyanese. And I must say that I stand by my statement. Even though I listened to your program that you were on earlier before this one, and I heard what is your position, which you are entitled to, I believe I also enjoy that privilege of being entitled to my position. And the statement that is specific that we did not like is when she said that East Indians coming from the slums of India and living in deplorable places like pipes and further insinuated that the alleged conditions under which East Indians lived in India made them undeserving of lands in Guyana. We went on to say in that statement that we want to make it clear that we condemn and distance ourselves from any attack on any race in Guyana, including our African brothers and sisters. And we went on to say, while we understand that the speaker may have made the comments out of hurt for what is happening in Afro-Guyanese communities, we cannot allow such conduct to pass without being called out. So we acknowledge and understand that she's speaking from hurt, but I am of the strong view that the comparison was unnecessary, and I stand by that.
So you're not saying that the comparison was factual. You're saying that it was unnecessary.
I'm saying it was unnecessary.
But you're not saying that it was factual.
I'm saying the comparison was unnecessary, and I stand by that.
You stand by that. Some people might say that it was quick. The five came together, and mind you, the five has every democratic right to issue a statement. But, you know, there were the calls to poison persons of African descent.
And we spoke out against that. I spoke out against that.
No, you can speak for yourself.
I made a Facebook post against it. I know that Natasha Singh Lewis spoke out against it. I know that Ubraj Narain spoke out against it. And I know that Daniel Siram spoke out against it. And I know that, I don't know if Geeta Chan Edmund spoke out publicly against it. I didn't ask her, nor did I inquire to find out if she made anything public. But I know, and I expected this question. And perhaps this is the question that really encouraged me to come on the program. Because I know and saw the Facebook posts that were made by the four very quickly when they spoke out against that statement. Not just that statement, I can point you to Ubraj Narain, when the vendors in East Street that are predominant Afro-Guyanese, he lied down in front of a truck representing them, and I commend him for that. And they also stood with him when he was unfortunately and being persecuted by taking to the station and what's not. I can tell you of Natasha Singh Lewis walking the streets, went into Linden, talking about women empowerment, representing the interests of women and predominantly Afro-Guyanese women. Well, I don't have to champion my call here on your program because you know what I have been doing since I've been on your program. So don't tell me that my brothers and sisters who co-signed a statement with me don't represent Afro-Guyanese. We do it, and we do it with strength and vigor, and we will continue to do it with strength and vigor because our conviction, our religious teachings, and our practice tells us that we must never behave and operate the way the People's Progressive Party behave and operate. And we have said in our statement that it is the policies of the PPPC government that are intended to create different and inequitable Guyanas. It is the PPPC that is causing all of this hurt on our people, mainly, yes, of Afro-Guyanese background, but there are other persons, as I keep saying, that are equally suffering. And
fair enough. Again, we are repeating ourselves. I never said that others aren't suffering. I'm not saying that they should go in to predominantly Indian communities and bulldoze their homes, broke up their farmlands, beat them up, and all. I'm not saying that should happen at all, because if it happens, I will speak out against that.
And I will too. Just like how I spoke out against the Mocha issue.
African folks are being targeted by this regime, not because of just because of their political affiliation, but because of their ethnicity. Now, before we close off, Rhonda Lane is on the line. She's saying, I did not say you cannot have lands that are taken away from us forcefully. I must speak about the lands. I was with the mayor at the court. I don't own a business. I was there to give him. She's saying she was right there with the mayor as well. And people were there with the mayor because the mayor has a duty to represent his constituency. And he did that. And Obraj did that, Mayor Obraj. But she's saying that she never said that.
And I am saying to you that all of us who signed the letter that some want to paint in with one brush have always spoken out against injustices, and we will continue to do just
Fair
that.
enough, and fair
And
enough. I can just speak of maybe a couple. I don't know about all, right? But what Rhonda Lane is saying here now contradicts what you claim that she said. She said she never said that.
well, listen, the tape is out there and people can listen to it. I said to you that these remarks further insinuated that the alleged conditions under which East Indians live in India made them undeserving of lands in Guyana. We said to you that that was deduced. It was insinuated, being the statement coming from East Indian community of Guyana. Specifically, we wish to condemn the speaker's remarks where it referred to East Indians coming from the slums of India and living in deplorable places like pipes. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Rhonda Lane. And I want to tell you, Mark, that the statement affected me, it affected my other persons who signed it, and it affected many other persons who called us to ask us what is our position on it also, because it affected them. It may not have affected people, or it may have affected people differently. And we cannot run away from that. We cannot run away from that. Not because you didn't feel it, Mark, means I must not feel it. Not because
I never
David
said I
Hines
didn't
didn't
feel.
feel it,
I
means
never
I
said I
can't
didn't.
feel it.
One second, Mr. Mahipal. Don't get too caught up. Miss Rhonda Lane is saying she never said that.
But, and I'm
What
saying
just
to you,
said about lands. But we will invite Miss Rhonda Lane sometime right here on 107.1 FM. Before we go, though, the police said that there is and thank you, Norman. The police said that there is going to be no march. They haven't approved the march for tomorrow. What are you guys going to do? No march for tomorrow.
well, I that is a question that I think the leader and the leadership of the party will have to deliberate on.
So you don't want to touch on that, but everything else you touched on. But this one here goes to the leader of the party. What is your take, sir, on the police not granting permission for a march?
My personal take is that I have a constitutional
as an
right.
MP, your take.
I have a constitutional right to express myself, and if I would like to express myself via marching, I would say that we can march.
Will you be there to march without a permit?
Well, I have, like I said to you, that I have to speak to my leader because I learned of what you said there on the program that I was watching with you earlier. I learned of
Dr.
it.
You mean you can say his name, Dr.
But
David Hines program.
I said to you that tomorrow I had already had planned activities for my region tomorrow. I said that earlier.
I will be following your activities.
I wouldn't be putting up everything. I must tell you that.
Put up something so that we can see some work.
Of course.
Mr. Mahipal, you're no stranger to us here, sir. And I'm glad that we were able to knock glass tonight.
I have
right
bottle of water.
I
drink blue water.
Real people. You're shaking hands with real people who are patriots, who are patriotic people, not hypocrites. And you know who those hypocrites are. Take it easy with those hypocrites. They don't like us in the, they're not patriotic at all.
They don't like us in the coalition.
When you smile up with them and you knock glass with them, it defeats the purpose. Trust me. I'm not saying that members of parliament shouldn't meet and knock glass with regimes and so forth. I'm not saying that at all. But now is not the time for that. These people are cruel to Guyanese. You have described it. They're cruel to their supporters. They're cruel to people in general. And I wouldn't be standing knocking glass with them and shaking hands with them until they get it right. But unfortunately, these vagabonds in the PPP wouldn't get it right until they're voted out of office. Mr. Mahipal, your closing remarks, sir.
I will close by saying I don't disagree with what you just said. Thank you for having me on the program. Always a privilege, and I look forward to being here again.
That was swift. That was quick.
That is not something usual, right? Well, your kind of questioning wasn't usual tonight too. So I decided to be unusual too.
Well, let me say this to you, Mr. Mahipal. Let me say this. In politics, you've got to expect all manner of questions.
I agree. I don't disagree with you.
It is unusual because I ask the questions that people want to hear responses from you.
I don't disagree with you, Mark. I never said I disagree with you. I
No, but you
told you I
can't. The
look at
way in which you're saying unusual is like, I can imagine what you'll talk about me when you get off this show.
maybe I'll call you and express myself. No, Mark, listen. Don't let's mix matters here. You were perfectly in order to ask your questions, and I was perfectly in order to answer your questions.
Fair enough.
I may have answered it to the liking of some and to the dislike of some. I can't change that. I can't provide an answer for all and sundry. I answer to the best of my ability and to my conviction. I answer based on my beliefs, my teachings, and my religious practice. I go with that kind of philosophy. I am also aligned to a political party where I subject myself to the ideals, the practices, the objectives. And those are things that I do when I make my presentation. I don't pretend here on your program. I don't come here with a coat to say, let me pull off or pull on a coat. What you see is what you get. And what I told you is the honest opinion of myself, and I don't have any regrets with it. I cannot pretend to say to you what I don't believe in. I say to you what I believe in. I'm a politician of that ilk, and I will maintain that standing because that is what will carry me where I go. Whether I fall or arise, the people of Guyana will have to determine that, not me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahipal.
You're welcome.
I wish you all the best tomorrow, that you're going out there in the community. I want you to, I will be doing some research, mind you. Allow us to do the research.
I hope you call the right people.
Let us do the research. Take some of the 31 with you, the 30 with you. Take them with you too. Ganesh, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Always, my brother. Thank you for having me.
Sure. "29 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you guys for staying up with us. It's been a night. It's been a night. Politics, I tell you, right? But one of the things I want to say, though, before I close off, is when a regime targets a people as a result of their ethnicity, and that's the point I was trying to hammer home. No government, installed or otherwise, should target a race or people as a result of their ethnicity. That is what the PPPC is doing towards persons of African descent. The evidence is clear. It is quite clear that that is precisely what they are doing. It is crystal clear. There should be no justification that others are punishing too. We know others are punishing too, but others are feeling the squeeze as a result of their political affiliation. And it is wrong. The PPPC is doing that to even their support base. Now, my concern is that persons of African descent are feeling double whammy as a result of their perceived political affiliation and mainly as a result of who they are as a people. It is wrong. Dead wrong. There should be no justification that others are punishing too. Now, I feel insulted when I hear people talk that. But I'll be back again tomorrow, same place, same time, right here on 107.1 FM. I don't think Guyana is getting any better. The racial war, social media war, that is, not physical war, it's getting out of hand. It's getting beyond where it should be, and the PPP can't do a thing. They don't want to do anything. They're the ones who are perpetuating this sort of racism at every level. Discrimination from the award of contracts and so forth. 99% of the people are from one ethnic group. Forget about others who complaining from the same, that we're looking at the perception. 99% one ethnic group. It is wrong. It is dead wrong. There's no justification for that. And when Rhonda Lane was basically out there, Rhonda Lane, she was being persecuted by the PPP regime, persecuted by members of the judiciary. Nobody jumped to her defense. Nobody. No one. And now I'm not saying that, it is politically correct that she should have cooked up things and stew up what she said. She's an ordinary woman. She expressed herself, how she feels about a particular situation and about a regime that is targeting her and people who look like her. If you want to talk about ethnic cleansing, talk about that. If you want to talk about, targeting a particular people because of their race, talk about what the PPPC is doing towards persons of African descent. It is wrong. If any regime was targeting our indigenous brothers and sisters, I would speak out against that. Or targeting our Indian brothers and sisters, I would speak out against that. But I cannot sit down and see and remain quiet when this corrupt PPP regime is mainly targeting persons of African descent and stay quiet or try to justify it in saying that others are being targeted too, when the targeting of African Guyanese is totally different. It is different. We cannot be so insensitive about this. Teaming up and issue statements and these sort of things just to be politically correct and to say that you're upset. I understand. I have lots of relatives who are Indians who probably may be watching. Good evening to you too. So my position is not just standing up and defend persons of African descent because I am a black man. No. I'm a patriotic Guyanese. And if the regime doesn't stop targeting black folks in Guyana, I don't know what else to say. But the pot is boiling. I just don't know what else to say. And I'm not going to say anything else. I hope there is a march tomorrow against discrimination. Because there are lots of discrimination in Guyana. Compliments of the corrupt, installed PPP regime. I've got to go. I'll be back tomorrow, same place, same time. Thank you all for listening this evening. A lot came out. You guys have interpreted a lot, which is good. Eyes have opened, which is good. Next elections. I gotta go.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Good morning. See the madness for you guys to get on with? Fucking racialness and to know? Huh? Ranger, I gotta go fucking fight with. You understand? Go and fight with fucking Ranger. He been in there for 3 years. Then no confident motion is after the election. He's stretching for reach 5 years and still don't want to give up. Go and fight with fucking Ranger. Are your mother's cunt want power and you can't clean your fucking batty hole? Eh? Are you fucking black racial cunt in Guyana? Eh? Are you want fucking power? I can't wipe your fucking bat. I can't beat your fucking skin. Box on a fucking baton. Because I not get a fucking right man for coming fucking box down. For settle your scunt. Every fucking day I talk your fucking racialness. Why not go try your fucking self in the fucking ocean? Go and fight your fucking Ranger Harman and knock them out to Ramjatan. Them are the one, the people vote for them. You know why the fucking people that vote for a fucking thief, man? You know PNC is a fucking thief. WPASC is a thief, man. It's a fucking bandit. I just want to work. I want thief and rob and kill and destroy. I not get the fucking right body for that. The fucking government should have called in the fucking US. Settle your squant properly. I play fucking mad again. I black mother squant you. Eh? People got cause you squant day and night. Eh? What you think? Are you fucking powerful? See the what I have to talk squant when I clean a fucking country. If I like a country. Come out and work and clean a fucking country. Where the people government for do everything? Mr. Norton want fucking free money. You want to the fucking blank check for the man right. Where the blank check gone? Huh? Are your mother contouring it?
Are you any better?
No.
You're throwing out a helpless dog?
What helpless dog? I don't need a dog in my yard, all right? You want a dog, take it, put it between your legs.
You little bastard.
No, you probably want the dog to fuck you. That's what you want. I don't care. I don't care who you are.
I don't care who the hell you are.
Fuck you.
Yeah, dekha.
Now listen to me.
You're drunk. You're
Don't
bloody,
let any woman come in my yard.
You're bloody drunk.
Hello. You like the camera?
You don't understand English. Speak in English. Chalo, tum chalo.
These people have no conscience. No conscience they don't have. None. Go.
Mr. Watts, he is armed himself shots. Shots, watch it, tear gas. Live rounds. Also, I can see that.
But since Mike wasn't there, no, you call the East Coast.
Hello, you wonderful folks. Concerned Guyanese abroad, residing overseas in New York here and also internationally. It's a grand rally, as I said, rally, starting tomorrow at Leopards and Little Guyana Squares.
Need to let her know you cannot make statement about a foreign government when you're just a local elected official. She wants to stabilize and totally elected government. That is unfair for to them, walk behind them, chase them out there. Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight